Hello, 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 and welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me first remind you that we are covered by the BitCot No Government License, which allows for the use and reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is BIPCOT.org. We're also protected by Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969, which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Therefore, everything said here on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion is entirely hypothetical and for entertainment purposes in Minecraft.
Yeah.
Something.
It's something like that.
Yeah. This is episode 142, which that's just gonna be another clusterfuck episode, like we always do.
It always is.
So I do want to take a moment before we get into this and acknowledge that yesterday being July 10th, was the 10th anniversary of the death of Kelly Thomas. If you don't know Kelly Thomas' story, oh God, as much as I hate that video, you have to look it up. Go up on YouTube, find the video of him being beaten by 6 Fullerton police officers. Hear him calling for his dad, hear him saying I'm sorry, hear him begging for them to stop. Hear him crying out that they're killing me while they beat him into submission because he was sleeping on a park bench and allegedly looking in car windows. We allegedly, because he wasn't ever convicted of anything, because he spent 5 days in a hospital and fucking died.
Yeah, and then died of his injuries.
Yep. And the coroner ruled that he died as, or he died because of the police beating, because they crushed his thorax, because they broke his face, all sorts of other stuff. And even though that was the ruling, even though everything was caught on video and audio, which is just fucking haunting, the police were found not guilty.
They all walked.
Yeah, there were 6 cops that beat him, three faced charges. All 3 were found not guilty. Kelly's dad later received like a $4.9 million settlement. There's a whole backstory to that one that I won't get into because, well, his dad's an ex-cop and he's a piece of shit too. But several years later, the police officers that were fired as a result of the Kelly Thomas murder actually applied to have their jobs back. They sued the department for violating procedure or some bullshit, and the lawsuit went on and on and on. And eventually, they caught wind of the public outcry about it, and they withdrew their lawsuit. But
yeah, because there was enough of the public that basically said, "We see you back on our streets, and you ain't going home."
Yeah, pretty much. They let them know that they were not wanted to be carrying a badge. So
that's that video. Like, if there's anybody that you know that still supports cops and still thinks that, you know, oh, it's just a few bad apples and anything else, consider that nothing happened to those cops, and then consider the video, watch it, and think about the fact that no one went to prison, no one was punished at all for that.
The cop's lawyer said in court that Kelly killed himself by resisting.
He was schizophrenic.
It's fucking like 5'6", 5'7", 135 pounds. And it takes 6 cops. And when the paramedics got there, the cops forced the paramedics to treat the cops' wounds, which included bruised and broken knuckles and a scratch on Ramos's arm, which he got from falling over on the concrete.
Before they demanded they be treated first.
Yes, before they treated Kelly. So, yes, Kelly Thomas, if you don't know, look that one up. It is one of those It's like Ruby Ridge, Kelly Thomas, Elian Gonzalez. It's one of those cases that helped make me anti-government.
Yeah, you can't watch that. No human being can watch that video and not want to see every one of those cops dead.
Wood chippered.
Yeah, because
in Minecraft.
Yeah, that's you can't possibly watch that and think, oh well, but we don't know the whole story. The guy's schizophrenic. He's very small. He's being ganged up on. Before the cops start hitting him, they go, "You see these fists? They're about to fuck you up, boy."
And the entire thing is caught on audio, not just video, right? We're not talking like cell phones. This is 2011 when he was murdered. Like, this is surveillance camera, black and white footage. It's at night, but there is crystal clear audio. You can hear Kelly screaming for his dad. Dad, help me. I'm sorry. Please stop. Help me. They're killing me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said they had like 16 times or 18 times or something. He pleads for his dad.
He said, Dad, help me. They're killing me 31 times. He says, sir, please. Okay. 30 times. Help me, God, 26 times. And he said, I'm sorry, 15 times while he was being beaten. So.
Yeah, and he's not fighting back. I mean, you can see in the whole thing, he's not fighting back. He's just laying there curling into a ball. And they just keep punching him and hitting him.
They punched him, hit him with batons, tased him. He had several taser burns from close proximity taser burns. So. Yep.
Yeah, they fucking murdered him and they walked on it just because they had their magical suit.
Yeah, just like the people that killed Sammy and Vicky Weaver.
Yep. Walked because magical suits. The people who burned over 70 people to death in Waco walked because they had their magical suits on. The people, the guy who shot Tamir Rice walked away because he had a magical suit.
He recently applied for his job back and they're like, no.
Especially not in this current climate. No. Yeah, I really don't want my city to burn to the ground. So no, I don't think we're gonna do that.
The 5th anniversary of Philando Castillo was the other day too, and that cop walked.
Mm-hmm. That's real local to me too. I mean, not like super local, but the Twin Cities are within just a couple of hours drive of me. And
there's several from up there that we can say.
And that's and he got shot in the chest repeatedly by a cop while he was reaching for his wallet, which the cop had just told him to reach for. And he had told the cop that he was a legal concealed carrier, even though Minnesota doesn't have an obligation to reveal.
Mm-hmm.
He still said it just to calm the cop down. Like, hey, I am a legal concealed carrier. That's why there's a gun there. And when the cop's like, well, I need to see your license. He's like, well, my wallet's right next to the gun. I got to get my wallet. And the cop said, well, get it. And he said, okay, reaches down. And then the cop starts shooting.
Yeah. That was on Facebook Live video. His girlfriend was live streaming that one when he was shot and when he died. And
yeah. And that, and the thing is like, when she points the camera at the cop and says something about him murdering him and stuff, you can see the look on the cop's face is, oh shit, I done fucked up. And he walked anyway. The cop even knew that what he did was wrong. He walked fucking anyway.
Yeah, it's I don't have any cop stories to transition to.
Well, I mean, I thought, since we're doing updates on stuff that we talked about before, we could talk about the thing in Louisiana.
The BB guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, we bring that one up. I think we talked about this one before about the kids being suspended or whatever, or expelled or whatever it was.
Yep, there's a 4th grader and a 6th grader. It was during lockdown. They were doing the online classes. And they both happened to be playing with BB guns, like little airsoft guns, while they were. I don't remember if they were actually on break.
I think one kid One kid like moved his from one side of the desk to the other so that he could get in a drawer. And I think the other kid actually had his like on a shelf or something behind him.
Yep.
Okay,
And because of that, they both got suspensions, even though it was in their home. It's not at school. They're not even real weapons.
Yeah. Louisiana School Board agreed to pay $165,000 to settle lawsuits by parents of 2 children suspended last year for holding BB guns during online classes. 4th grader Kamari Harrison of Harvey and 6th grader Tommy Brown of Grand Isle both got suspended last September after the teachers saw them with BB guns when they were logged into classes from home. How do you get suspended from online schooling?
You're not allowed to log in. Okay.
Their family filed suit against Jefferson Parish School District in federal court, arguing that the punishments violated the children's rights of freedom of expression, to bear arms, and due process. The Jefferson Parish School Board announced Wednesday that it had settled both lawsuits out of court. The board agreed to pay Harrison's family $92,500 and Brown's family $72,500. In addition, the board agreed to change disciplinary records of both students to say they were suspended for disruptive conduct, removing any references to weapons.
I can't believe they agreed to even that. Like, I would have been like, no, I don't want any record of them having been suspended at all, because
I don't even want a record of my kids being in school.
Well, yeah, that's and this, we talked about this when we talked about this incident originally, that, this is exactly why you don't send kids to fucking public school. Having your kids educated by the enemy is a really bad idea.
Like sending being a freedom or being a liberty-minded parent and sending your kids to an institution that is collectivist-minded is literally sending your kid to the enemy for education.
And then being shocked when they're taught things like
that
CRT
your parents are the fucking murderers, that your parents are the enemy, that your parents are extremists.
Yeah.
And you got kids turning their parents in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Quote, the school board and Harrison, Williams, and Brown's families are pleased that they were able to reach a resolution and can now refocus on the education of Jefferson Parish students in an orderly, safe, and welcoming environment in both virtual and non-virtual classroom settings. they were safe to begin with.
Yeah, they were already safe. It was BB guns and it was online. It's not like they even brought they didn't even bring the things that shoot the little plastic pellets at 100 feet per second to school. They were in their fucking house.
In their bedrooms of their houses.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. The school board was criticized by the American Civil Liberties Union, that's the ACLU, and the National Rifle Association for the suspension.
That is some strange bedfellows for
which applied policing, which applied policies banning weapons at school or at school-sponsored events to children learning from home during the coronavirus pandemic. Louisiana lawmakers passed a new law in Harrison's name that gives students and their families more options to appeal certain disciplinary decisions and requires schools to tweak their discipline policies for at-home or online instruction. That's just fucking retarded that you need a law to say you can't suspend my kid for something that they do at home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's how many incidents like that have happened over the past couple, realistically, the past year since the beginning of the lockdowns and all the homeschooling. I mean, we've covered so many of them.
Several. Like there was the one kid that had the Nerf gun on the gun rack, or not on the gun rack, on the shelf. It was like on a bookshelf, and it was like a Nerf pistol or something like that. And the teacher saw it on video and called the police. And then told the principal or whatever, something like that. And the police actually came and knocked on the door before the school could contact the parents. I think that one was like St. Louis or something. But that's just so fucking insane.
Well, and you'll notice how much, like, when there are parents, because there's also been incidents during this whole thing where there are parents who want to sit in on the online classes and hear what's going on. And so they're sitting off camera to the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And they've heard teachers say things that they're like, what? And there's also been those incidences where when the teachers find out that the parent's sitting there, they don't want the kid logged in anymore.
Yeah.
Unless the parent leaves the room. Well, what are you teaching my child that you don't want me to know you're teaching them? What is going on in this class that I'm not allowed to hear it? In Wisconsin, we have a law that if parents want to audit classes, so if they want to sit in on classes in this, in the school, they can do that. They have to let them know ahead of time and blah, blah, blah. But you're able to then just go in and sit in on the classes and watch what's going on and what's being taught and what's being said. And the schools are required to allow that to happen here. But there are a lot of states that don't allow that don't have that kind of a law that forces the schools to allow the members of the community to know what's being taught.
Like school at most, school should be between the educators and the parents and the students, of course. Like they're who should dictate what kids are taught, when they're taught it, how they're taught it, because the parents are the one paying for the schools.
Yep.
Right. The kids are the kids of the parents are the ones that are in school doing the learning. Right. So a parent absolutely has 100% a right to know and to voice what their kids are being taught, how they're being taught it, who's teaching them.
Yeah, I mean that's a big difference between like even just private schools and public schools, because private schools would never dream, ever dream of telling parents that are paying to send their kids to these schools, oh, you don't get to know what we're actually teaching your children.
Oh yeah.
That would never be something that they would ever do.
Yeah.
But public schools go out of their way to be as secretive about what they actually teach as possible. And then when people find out and they get up in arms about it, they're like, well, see, this is why we don't want you to know, because then it's going to be nothing but controversy. Well, yeah, because why the fuck are you teaching my kid this? Well, if you're scared that what you're teaching my kid is going to be too controversial for that kid's parents to handle, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we dealt with when my kids were younger. My kids are adults now, but when my kids were younger, they were in a private Christian school that their grandma paid for, because it was either homeschool or private school at that point, because the schools here in California suck ass. So they were in a private Christian school paid for by their grandmother, because her grandmother graduated from there, so she got discounts and all that good stuff. So anyway, one of the school books that is like a social studies book, it had to be like 7th or 8th grade. It was a social studies book, and they were learning about the Constitution. And my daughter brought it to my attention in the book that the Second Amendment, according to this book, allows for certain restrictions in the name of public safety.
Which it does not.
And this has to be 2012, right? So this is 10 years ago that this happened. So this book was probably printed 2010 or so. So parents need to know what their kids are learning.
Yeah,
or
hell, I remember
not learning. That's not the right word.
Yeah, well, they're being schooled in
and indoctrinated into. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember even when I was in high school, I think it would have been either my freshman or sophomore year, that when we were going through the Constitution, that it was said in our textbooks that, oh, the second, it was summarizing all of the amendments. It said Second Amendment provides for militias, I think is what it said. And that was all it said, just provides for militias. And then my teacher was like, yeah, that's like, that's the National Guard that we have now. No, that isn't what it's talking about at all.
I graduated in 1998. I don't remember a fucking thing from school.
I just remember that because I remember getting into a heated debate with my teacher, like, but that isn't what it says at all, even remotely. That is not what that says.
All right, let's move on to another one, another school one, because this is a good one. This is FDA's ban on use of electric shock devices used at the Judge Rottenberg Center of Massachusetts overturned. I'm going to read that again. FDA's ban on the use of electric electric shock devices used at the Judge Rottenberg Center in Massachusetts overturned. Before we get into it, the Judge Rottenberg, it's Rotenberg, Judge Rottenberg Educational Center is an institution and school in Canton, Massachusetts for people with developmental disabilities, emotional disorders, and autistic-like behaviors. This is a school for disabled, emotional disorders, and autistic-like behaviors. Right? So these are people that through our current legal system aren't able to actually advocate for themselves, right? So these are people that have other people advocate for them. All right, largely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a federal appeals court has overturned the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's ban on the use of controversial electric shock devices used at the Judge Rottenberg Center. The devices are specifically used to, quote, correct aggressive and or self-harming behavior in adults and children.
They're shock collars for kids.
The devices are also used at only one facility in the country, which is in Canton. That's Canton, Massachusetts. In March 2020, the FDA banned electronic stimulation devices, that's ESDs, for self-injurious or aggressive behavior. That means if you're being aggressive or if you're self-harming, they weren't allowed to use the electronic devices on you. Anyone
else seeing visions of Clockwork Orange right now, or is that just me?
He learned to love Big Brother. But on July 6th, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit Court found that the ban was beyond the FDA's authority, as it was a regulation of the practice of medicine.
Is that not what the FDA does every time it approves a medication or says you can't have this labeling on a medication or some sort of holistic therapy or anything else? Is that not what it does? Is regulate medical, like the practice of medicine? Isn't that what it does?
Yeah. Quote, in this case, the statute says that the FDA is not to construe its statutes so as to interfere with the practice of medicine, the opinion reads. Quote, that means that the FDA may not enact the regulation at issue before us. The school stated that, quote, the ruling was a victory for the Judge Rottenberg Educational Center and a group of parents and guardians of its students, which had challenged the regulations. There were more than 300 people who attend and live at JRC, of which about 55 people are approved for the devices.
So these kids' parents argued that they wanted their children to receive electroshock therapy.
Let me read this paragraph. Because you're gonna. Okay, this is a statement from JRC, which is the Judge Rottenberg Center. Quote, the court's ruling means that JRC can continue to provide court-approved and court-monitored graduated electronic decelerator treatments as part of its holistic treatment plan for profound aggressive or self-injurious behavior. The GED, that is the graduated electronic decelerator, is a treatment of last resort, and its recipients are at risk of grievous bodily harm or even death without it. With the treatment, these residents can continue to participate in enriching experiences, enjoying visits with their families, and most importantly, live in the safety and freedom from self-injurious and aggressive behaviors.
Ah, that freedom of wearing a shock collar.
This is for your own good.
Yeah, and the fact that there are parents who are, but that's the thing. That's why I bring up Clockwork Orange, right? Remember Clockwork Orange? They use the Pavlovian therapy to try and correct somebody who has a long pattern of aggressive, violent behavior. And ultimately, at the end of the book and end of the film, you find out that it didn't ever actually work. So that's the idea that you can use electroshock therapy. You are shocking. This is the same kind of thing that you do with dogs that bark too much, right? With a bark collar, where it gives them a little shock to correct the behavior. It's not enough to truly hurt them, but it bothers them enough that they stop. It's one thing when you're doing that to a dog. It's another when you're doing it to a human fucking being and a kid.
This is another one of those things that is like, I'm pretty sure it's banned by the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, if you tried to use that on prisoners of war, you would be tried for war crimes.
Yeah.
The UN Human Rights Council would take you to task if you were a government that attempted to do this with your citizenry as a complete psychopath and a tyrant. I mean, even the Soviet Union never tried shot callers on people in the gulags.
Oh, my goodness. The JRC Parents Association said they are grateful for the decision, adding that it is, quote, life-saving treatment of last resort. Quote, there is no other treatment for our loved ones, and we will not stand by as they are mechanically or chemically restrained. The JRC Parents Association is looking forward to allowing their loved ones to receive this life-saving treatment without further government interference. You know what that sounds like? You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like the exact same argument made by the parents of kids that were forced to go through gay conversion therapy.
Yeah, it does. Or the anti-brainwashing therapy when they leave cults.
Yep.
It's just this. The school statement is just fucking absolute word salad. Mm-hmm. They're using 15 words to cover up that what they're saying is, but we need to electrically shock children.
It's for their own behave. Good.
Yeah, for their own good.
And again, these are people that, according to our legal system, according to the government, can't consent for themselves. So they've already removed self-autonomy from the equation. Right? So these aren't people saying, please shock me. Which, as fucked up as it would be, I'd be like, okay, right, you signed up for this.
Hey, there are people in that. I'm not here to kink shame, man.
Kink shame. I'm not, We got an article later about Hunter Biden trying to unionize prostitutes. I mean, that might work into that, but that's not this case.
I mean, there's some people who might be into that, and but I mean, this is like the same thing as like if anybody's familiar with the Free Britney movement. A lot of people vaguely know about it, but don't truly know what's going on. She is under a conservatorship still, stemming back to that whole thing back in 2008 when she kind of lost her mind, shaved her head, everything else, right? And she's recovered. She's no longer on drugs. She's running her own tours and doing all of this stuff. But because the conservatorship is ongoing, she has no control over any of her money. And she has no control even over her own medical decisions. For instance, she expressed in her most recent court appearance that she wanted to remove the IUD so that she could try to conceive another baby. However, the conservatorship has the power to tell her no and will not allow her to go get that removed. These are people, when we're talking about the adults at this place, these are adults who have that kind of thing where they are not allowed to even say no to this at all. And on top, doesn't it seem weird that like somebody who might be self-injurious, that your response is to injure them, to stop them? I mean, I'm just pointing out like that seems probably not the best course of action. And I mean, you're actually causing someone physical pain intentionally in order to change their behavior Pavlovianly.
Yes.
That's what you're doing. And at least they're not being physically or chemically restrained. Yet they're still being physically restrained. That's a physical thing that's happening. Like that's still a mechanical thing. Yeah, it's electricity, but it's still a mechanical device that is restraining them. It's pain. It's causing pain. I mean, it would be the same thing as imagine if the guys, the orderlies at this school were walking around with shock sticks, like cattle prods. Like that would be pretty horrific to see them like cattle prodding children. So,
but it's for their own good.
It's for their own good
that they can't consent to,
so that they can participate in enriching activities. I mean, tell me that doesn't sound like the kind of crap that you would hear in a dystopian novel with some sort of like in like Equilibrium or something, right? Where it's like some sort of like behavioral modification for the extremists. This is exactly the kind of crap that they would say. And it's terrifying that life has imitated art to this point. I mean, I understand the point of the judge, which is that the FDA doesn't have the ability to regulate that. Oh, fine, whatever. They shouldn't have to have, even though, because that just shouldn't exist. Oh my God.
Yep. The facility introduced these types of devices in the 1980s. Since then, many advocates have spent decades speaking out against their use. The facility has had numerous news articles written about their practices, including stories from Mass Live, a number of court cases, and a 2012 viral video that shows a student screaming and asking for them to stop. Quote, "That hurts, that hurts," the student can be heard saying in a panicked voice. "Stop, stop for real." So I would say that that kid did not consent.
I mean, can you imagine being told that they're going to put this device on you and there's remote controls in the hands of people who are claiming authority over you, and if you don't do what they say when they say it, that they're going to electrically shock you?
Yeah, the
with the push
FDA
of a button.
The FDA ruled that the devices can cause a number of significant psychological and physical risks, quote, including worsening of underlying symptoms, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, pain, burns, and tissue damage.
That should kind of be obvious that that's the case. I mean, but again, this is this school and people who advocate for this, because it's exactly the kind of thing the government would be totally kosher with. The reality is that, oh, that's my train of thought. It's been derailed. No, I was going to say the reality is, though, is that this is people who simply, it's the same thing as the asylums back in the 19th century, where they just don't want to have to try and figure any of this out and figure out how to fix them or anything else. We'll just slap them in this prison that electrocutes them occasionally, and they'll be okay. Don't worry, they're going to have basket weaving classes. Like, they'll be retreading tires. It'll be okay. Like, I mean, good Lord.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can go on to that one, but I was going to bring up the women's diagnosis of hysteria in the past and all that other stuff. That
they have sexual hysteria. Don't worry, I'm a doctor. I'll take care of it for you with manual stimulation. Yeah.
Leeching was the science at one point.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a headache? Let's drill a hole in your head. Release the demons.
All I can think of is the Dr. Krieger and Archer with what you call this medical science? You haven't even worked on trying to divide the humors.
All right, I mentioned Hunter Biden. So let's jump on that article. So Hunter Biden proposed unionizing prostitutes, according to laptop text.
He seems like the kind of person who would.
Hunter Biden came up with a plan to unionize prostitutes for their protection after, quote, telling strippers for 25 years that they should unionize, according to text found on his alleged laptop. Text from 2018-2019 show that he spent thousands of dollars per session with prostitutes in cities around the country. By his own admission, the millionaire businessman had extensive dealings with strippers, as well as found them to be intelligent, motivated, and business savvy. A 14-minute tape recording revealed.
Well, he's not all bad, apparently.
he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not all bad. It turns out, actually.
Quote, "You organize without even organizing in a traditional way," Biden theorized. Quote, "If you want to advertise legally, you go through the unions of which you're a member. Your dues are the fees to which you pay for advertising. Whoever does this first will be running the largest union in the country."
So he wanted to become the Jimmy Hoffa of hookers.
Hookers and blow.
And the funny thing is just like Jimmy Hoffa, he'd probably wind up disappearing because of the mob if he tried to unionize prostitutes.
This is the best paragraph in this whole article. This new union would require proof that someone isn't a sex trafficker and that all contracts are consensual. Pimps who join would be rated, quote, like you rate nonprofits, according to Biden.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but Biden's kid's got some ideas here.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. It would, number one, it would be safer, right? Because they'd be off the street. They wouldn't be streetwalkers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So they got that sense of security, and then also they would have the visualization, right? So like, I mean, you see that electrical unions work, whatever union gives them collective bargaining for the power for better wages and better like medical coverage and all that other stuff. So I mean, it's not a bad idea for the girls, but it would also leave a huge empty hole in the black market, which would be filled with just terrible people or desperate people.
Well, yeah, you'd wind up. So, I mean, and that's the problem is what you'd actually wind up with is you would wind up with even more like Russian and like Eastern European gangs trafficking women. You'd have Chinese gangs trafficking women, and you'd have a bunch of Southeast Asian gangs of various stripes trafficking women at that point into the United States even more, because now to even strip you have to be a member of this union. You have to fork over a certain amount of money over there, and most strippers are already having to pay the club for their independent contractors, so they're actually renting their time on the stage and and they have to pay their DJ. So they have to pay for their own music. They have to, I mean, like, they're already forking over a chunk of their money just to be able to work. And now you want to also unionize them. And on top of that, if you unionize them, that means that chances are the unions are also going to know what they're bringing in, which means right now their tips are all in cash. So they don't necessarily have to tell the federal government everything that they're making. But once they're unionized, they're going to have to.
Because taxation is theft.
Yeah.
We're anarchists. We're anarchists. We have to say that once in a while.
Oh, yeah. Occasionally we have to say taxation is theft. Yeah, we have to remind everyone. We do still believe that. In case you forgot, also, we hate roads.
Yes.
Yes. But I mean, it's not a terrible idea. And he's not even necessarily talking about a union there. He's kind of talking about like almost more of like an independent accreditation service,
somewhere between there and like a mutual assistance type of thing.
Mean, that's not a terrible idea, actually. It turns out the crackhead's got some ideas.
And various other transactions with pimps and prostitutes, Biden's alleged texts show a highly organized procedure in which he would visit a website, agree to certain parameters, and pay electronically. Biden's unionizing idea appears to be geared more toward better working conditions for prostitutes because this was his theme in the tape recording about strippers.
I mean, it's really hard to fault this idea. It's a little ridiculous. It's the president's son who came up with this. But, I mean, it is Sniffy Joe at the same time. So
quote, it's like any other job. There are parts that really suck. They're tiring. There are clients that are complete pains in the ass. There's management that can be really horrible. There's really bad situations, of course. It's like any other job, but they dance because they love it.
I do know a few who do that. I also know a few porn stars who work in porn because they fucking love it.
And then it goes on to talk about where the laptop was found and all that other stuff. But
but it's, I mean,
from a true white market economic standpoint, like, I mean, alcohol, guns, and cannabis are all recession proof, right?
Mm-hmm.
People, when it doesn't matter what the economic situation, people are going to want guns, liquor, and pot.
Yep.
They also want girls, but that's largely underground. But I mean, if that were white collar, above ground, that would be a highly marketable situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at Super Freakonomics. If you've never read it, you definitely need to, because it is a freaking amazing. The Freakonomics, Super Freakonomics, and Super Freakonomics 2 are all amazing books that everybody should read because they're truly incredible. And the authors, I can remember in an interview, said, "We're making economics sexy again," but they do a comparison in Super Freakonomics, I think, where they compare real estate agents and the amount of economic value that actually a home seller gets out of them versus a pimp, and the amount of economic value that a hooker gets out of them. And it turns out the pimp actually provides way, way, way more economic value to the prostitute than a real estate agent does to a home seller, because he just does way more for that prostitute. He provides more service. He provides more in the terms of marketing and promotion. He makes sure that payment is rendered, all of these things. And there are bad pimps, don't get me wrong. Like, there's certainly, like, it's not like sex work is a safe thing largely in the United States. Other countries it's much safer, actually, but because it's legal.
What is it? The UK has a strippers union.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a prostitute union also.
It's the same union, I think, where it's like a sex workers, United Sex Workers Union. Yeah, and like so for them, like, it makes perfect sense that you would want something like that too, because it's going to provide you a serious economic benefit. You're going to get major promotion. You're going to get, especially if he's talking about an independent accreditation thing, where the prostitutes then certify themselves. They go and get tested regularly, certify themselves disease free. They, can
like the adult workers, the pornography workers, right? They have to have. They have to have regular STD tests and things like that.
Yep. Yeah, and in like in some countries, like in Germany, where prostitution is completely legal, they actually have cards that they show their clients that show the last time that they were certified to be disease free and everything else, and they're required to do it like once every 14 days or something, and demonstrate that.
It's a vaccine card.
Yeah, it's basically, but it's something that they do because the clientele demand it. They want to know, when was the last time that you were tested. I want to verify, and it's safer for everybody that way. And like, if you look at like even the Bunny Ranch, right? And the late owner of that, and in some of his interviews, when he talked about how that girls wanted to come work there because he provided them a safe environment. He provided them, marketing. He provided them, a space where they knew they were going to get paid, and all these other things that they didn't get if they were just out on the street on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Dennis Hoff, I think is his name. But
but I mean, like that, if he's talking about like, oh, the pimps get rated too, so then other sex workers know, like, do I want to go work with this guy? Do I not want to work with this guy? Stuff like that. There's a lot of, there's a there. It's there's something to that, I think, actually.
As long as it's consensual, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, that would
generally cool with it.
Except because it is Hunter Biden, that it's because he wants to become the Jimmy Hoffa of hookers.
Jimmy Hoffa of hookers. So we have our name for the article.
Apparently.
Or the name of the episode.
Jimmy Hoffa.
I'm going to write that one down.
He is, and again, like Jimmy Hoffa, eventually he's going to disappear in the middle of the desert somewhere outside of Las Vegas, most likely, for doing that. But as the mob certainly runs plenty of girls in the United States, and they're not exactly great on that whole like you're going to unionize thing. Not a big fan. So I mean, can you imagine if all the
unless they're in control of the union, in which case they clean up, they make a lot of money.
Yeah, and then they're like, you better join the union. I mean, like, can you imagine if all of the coke and heroin dealers
that's
for
a
the mob?
nice pair of heels. Be the same if someone broke them.
Oh, that's a wonderful purse dog you're carrying around. To be a shame if that anything were to happen to the little guy.
Oh, I really hope your implant doesn't explode.
Yeah, that's
doesn't spring a leak.
Yeah, wouldn't that be it? What happened? What happened to Sparkle? Well, she got pneumonia. Really? Yeah, real easy to do when you got that many holes in your breast implants.
God. Oh, thanks, Hunter. That was a good laugh. Which we're gonna need because Supreme Court declines to hear dispute over private property taken for economic development.
This is like the plot of so many movies from the 80s where some sleazy developer was going to use eminent domain to take a bunch of people's houses, and then all the kids in the neighborhood get together and commit a number of felonies that somehow everyone's just okay with and stop them. And somehow that actually works, and it stops this economic development, and we saved old lady Wither's house. Yeah.
This is the same sort of thing that happened during an era that caused a war.
Yeah.
That we'll get banned for talking about.
There's a lot of things we have talked about that'll get us banned.
True. Or flagged.
Yeah.
So, Supreme Court said Friday, this article is from July 2nd. Supreme Court said Friday that it would not take up an appeal of a Chicago landowner whose property was seized by the city to allow the expansion of a nearby chocolate-making plant.
Willy Wonka's an asshole.
Yeah.
Although we knew that because he also enslaved an entire race of people. I'm just going to point out. And tried to murder children. So.
Hey, he gave people golden tickets, though.
Well, I mean, they were insufferable children. And to be fair, the Oompa Loompas were, being attacked regularly by various wild animals.
They should have unionized.
Willie, we want to talk to you about our new union. Oh gosh, that's interesting. Why don't you tell me more about that?
Conservatives urged the court to accept the appeal so it could reconsider one of its most controversial decisions. That is a 2005 ruling that said local governments can use the power of eminent domain to take land from one private property owner and give it to another for an economic development project.
Gosh, 2005, that's familiar. It seems like right around there, right in those few years, maybe 3 years later, some of that those policies didn't work out real hot.
Yeah.
That were happening right around then.
The decision upheld the seizure of private homes in New London, Connecticut, including one owned by Suzette Kello, the lead plaintiff in the case. 3 of the judges, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh, said the court should have taken the case that it denied Friday. Businessman Fred Eichner, Eychaner, Eichner.
I think that's Eichner.
Eichner sued the city of Chicago when it seized property he owned in the city's River West neighborhood after he refused to sell. The city took his land and gave it to Bloomer Chocolate Company, which described itself as, quote, the largest cocoa processor and ingredient chocolate supplier in North America.
What's interesting, too, is that he had his land taken by, in order to hand it off to another company, and to another
private.
Yeah, but I mean, he owns a company, and his company's land was taken to be given to another company by the government.
Yeah, that sounds very economically fascist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eichner said the city violated the Constitution by invoking its eminent domain powers without a finding that he changed was necessary. Eichner said the city violated the Constitution by invoking its eminent domain powers without a finding that the change was necessary to remedy urban blight, which would have been a public benefit. Instead, the city said it was acting to avoid possible future blight.
Yeah, we're stopping crime before it happens.
Minority Report.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about this is keep in mind that in China, this is illegal.
Yes.
In China, even the government, if they're going to build a highway and want to take your property so that they can build a highway, they are not allowed to if you tell them no.
Yeah. In the U.S. Court of Constitution, it has to be for public use.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they've expanded the definition of public use to go beyond roads and go on to things like economic development. We're seizing this land because the new building will bring jobs.
And it's just for the good of everybody.
Yeah, put on these shot collars. It's for your own good.
I mean, and that's the thing. Is like China's a communist fucking country, and they have more property rights than you do in the United States.
He also said that the city abused its eminent domain power, which allows the government to take private land, quote, for public use. State court decisions that approved Chicago's actions, quote, provided a dangerous roadmap for municipalities to take property based on speculative future harms, his lawyers said of the Supreme Court in written briefs. The city said it did not base its actions solely on the issue of future blight and acquired the property as part of a comprehensive economic development plan. One it said was no different from the project the Supreme Court approved in the 2005 Kello decision.
Yeah, and it was horse shit in 2005 too.
In dissenting from the court's refusal to hear Eichner's appeal, Justice Thomas and Gorsuch said the case would have provided, quote, the opportunity to correct the mistake made in Kello. They said, quote, if your doctrine makes it difficult to discern public use from private favors, the court should take up the issue to, quote, provide much needed clarity.
Yeah, because if the Supreme Court, if SCOTUS had taken this and had ruled, no, you don't get to do that because you can't take it so that it can be given or sold to another business, even though someone who's the current property owner doesn't want to sell. If the court says, no, that's not okay, and the Supreme Court had said that, all of that stops.
Mm-hmm. If it's given or sold to another private entity, it's not public use.
Yeah, it's not public use.
Right? We're not talking about a road here, right? Or a park, as in the article we covered a couple weeks ago, or whatever. But by the Constitution, which, as we know, is the conservative equivalent of a gun-free zone sign. Credit to Ace on that one. The Court of the Constitution, they can seize the land, they can seize the property for public use, right? Public use. The problem is that they've expanded on what is considered public use to include economic development. Right? Economic development is not public use. If it's going towards a private company to profit off of, that's not public use, no matter how many jobs you create.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, I mean, keep in mind, one, remember that sudden creation of jobs is much more likely to haul people who weren't previously in the city into the city and into the neighborhood in order to work there.
It's just another play on the broken window fallacy.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's the exact same kind of shit. Even if you believed in that, look at the bailouts that happened and all the bailouts that have happened over the past 10 years that the companies closed anyway. Remember, there's that solar panel company that Solera that Obama bailed out that closed its doors anyway. Mm-hmm. So they stole a bunch of money from the public to then hand over to these people because they're like, but it's for the good of everybody. And then that company took the money and immediately closed its doors and gave all of its executives $1 million bonuses.
Not just that, but like this guy's property. It's his property. He bought and paid.
It's his.
Right. And I understand eminent domain. The government has to pay you what it thinks is fair market value and all this other bullshit. But again, they're doing this without his consent. Right. So they're again violating his natural rights to property, and giving it in violation of the Constitution, of their beloved Constitution, giving it to a private company so that a private company can make profit on its expansion.
You know, the funniest fucking thing about this is I just got into an argument the other day on Twitter with some filthy flag waver who was arguing, they were arguing about how with the public good and everything else, and that, oh well, but you have to accept, some that their government's got to take some things for the public good and blah blah blah. And then they also argued that in a free society there was nothing to stop anyone from just showing up with enough guns to force you off your property, to then just take it from you. And this, how is this different than that? Because in a free society, there is a way that you stop that. It's by having a bunch of other fucking people with guns go, no. So, but we can't do that here, can we? We don't have the ability in the United States right now, if the government decides they're going to seize somebody's property, essentially threaten you with a bunch of guns to force you to sell them your property.
It's not even force you to sell them your property. It's they take your property and then pay you what they believe it's worth.
Right, but I mean, you're selling your property, but under duress.
This is the equivalent. No, you're not selling your property, right? Because it's not you doing it. It's the state coming in and taking your wallet, right?
Right.
And then giving you what they believe is the market value of what's in your wallet.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, this is like, and this was a running theme in like Old West movies too, like where they do the westerns where this big rancher sends the goon squad with their guns to force the neighboring rancher to sell to them. And well, they're not really selling it. I mean, they're selling it, but they're not actually selling it. It's being taken from them at gunpoint, and then they're having money thrown at them and told that they, and being told, well, you should just be thankful that we're even giving you any money. And this is the same thing.
There's a line in a movie called American Outlaws with Colin Farrell, in which the railroad offers to buy his mom's land. And Colin Farrell's character, who's Jesse James in the movie, pulls the gun and he says, "We can bury him out back. No one will be the wiser."
Yep.
Putting that out there in the Minecraft space.
And that's how a free society would work.
We don't have F-15s and nukes though.
Do you remember the Pepsi thing back in the Pepsi points back in the late 90s, where they had that commercial where they had the Harrier land and it was like 15 million points or something, and there's that lawsuit for false advertising? That was freaking great. If anybody's listening and not old enough to remember that. So what happened was, there's this Pepsi points thing where if you bought Pepsi products, you got these little points, and depending on the size of the Pepsi product,
it was like a little cardboard UPC thing.
Yeah, and then you could go on to their, like, you could go into their catalog, because they sent you catalogs, because yes, this was before the internet was very advanced, kids. And you could go into their catalog and pick things out that would cost X amount of points, and then you have to stuff all the points in the envelope and send them to them. Well, they said, but you can just buy Pepsi points. If you don't have enough for something, it's 35 cents a point. And in their commercial, they had this kid buying all this stuff with Pepsi points that you could actually buy, and then it had him land a Harrier jet at his school, and it said like 15 million points or something, or 7 million points. And a guy actually sent them like a single Pepsi point, because you had to send at least one if you were going to pay for the rest. Like, sent them one Pepsi point and a check for like several $1,000,000 to cover the rest of it, to buy himself a Harrier. And when they were like, well, we can't actually sell you a Harrier, he took them to court over it. Yeah, so it's been a running...
Leonard versus PepsiCo. That was 1999. The Pepsi Points case which tried the United States District Court, Southern District, New York, 1999, which the plaintiff, John Leonard, sued PepsiCo Incorporated in an effort to enforce an offer to redeem 7 million Pepsi points for an AV-8 Harrier II jump jet, valued at $33.8 million at the time, which PepsiCo had shown in a portion of its televised commercial that PepsiCo argued was intended to be humorous.
Yep. I mean, Pepsi did win the case, because they're like, come on, no one honestly believed that we were going to be able to sell you a Harrier. The funny thing is, they actually totally could have. If they could have afforded to buy one, they could have bought one and then sold it to them.
The court found that even if the advertisement had been an offer, no reasonable person would have believed that the company seriously intended to convey a jet worth $23 million for $700,000. That
Yeah,
was
exactly.
that was a mere puffery.
Yeah, it's, and I mean, to be fair, like, I understand the judge's thing there. That was the right ruling. That's freaking ridiculous. Come on, you didn't actually think they meant that it was the. Although if I had been the advertising guy, I probably would have calculated the actual price of it and then said it's that equivalent amount of points, so that he would have actually had to just buy the jet. At which point I'd be like, oh, well, I mean, I guess we can sell you one. We're not making any money on it, but okay, cool. But we're gonna repaint it in Pepsi livery, so enjoy that. Uh, just this blue Harrier with a big red, white, and blue circle on it.
See, what they should have done is they should have seized it and then sold it to him, and that would have been the reverse equivalent of what happened in this case.
Yeah, it would have been eminent domain at that point. Oh nope, sorry, it's for the good of everyone, right? It's economic development, because now he's gonna protect people with it, and he's But I mean, even the thing is remember that even the public use thing is a load of horseshit. Like, you can't take someone's property and go, yeah, but now, see, we're going to turn into a park. We're going to build a road, and it's for the good of everyone. Fuck your good of everyone. It's my fucking property.
Exactly.
I don't fucking care. I hate everyone. I don't want to help them. Fuck these people.
I know we've had this conversation before, and like, this situation is I have regular dreams about this situation, and like being in a shootout with the federal government over them trying to take my property because I refuse to pay taxes on it, and getting shot to shit and dying in a fire.
Which is exactly what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I years ago I told this same story on the podcast, where there's actually locally here, just south of me, about 45 minutes in Viroqua, there was or outside, actually I think it was outside Lafarge, but tomato. There was a guy who hadn't paid taxes in years on his property, and the state government showed up with the La Crosse County SWAT team and their Bearcat, their big armored car, to force him off of his property because he hadn't paid his taxes, and he got in a big gunfight with them. And the crazy thing is, he had a bunch of milsurp guns that he actually had like AP rounds for, so like there are chunks out of the Bearcat's armor from these AP rounds. Like, they actually displayed it in City Hall like for a couple of days afterwards. I went and saw it, and there's like just these huge grooves out of the armor and stuff from rounds cutting through it. It was actually kind of cool to see. I was like, holy shit.
What was the one that we saw that was for sale the other day?
Oh, it was an M3, I think, if I remember correctly. It was a light tank, an M3 light from World War II.
Let me find that link. Where are you, Link? Where would you be?
The funny thing is, the M3 light actually isn't dramatically heavier than a really big truck, like a really big pickup truck.
Let's see. It was the 1941 M3 Stewart light tank.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still only 15,000.
You know what's funny is, years ago, when I had a lot more money, because I was working for people who paid me a lot more money.
Just say you were a contractor.
I was a bit of a drunk.
No judgment.
But when I was making more money, I actually almost bought. I came within a hair's breadth of buying a Russian APC, because it was the coolest fucking thing I'd ever seen. It was like all open top, and it had this like canopy thing over top of it, like not like netting, but like this like canvas thing on like these poles over top of it that somebody had added, because it was all open on the top of it. And so you could like give people rides. It was amphibious, and it was really cool. And the guy only wanted like $8,500 for it.
Deal.
So I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Well, I was gonna buy it. I even test drove it. Everything worked flawlessly, been fully restored, tip to tail. There wasn't even peeling paint anywhere or rust, nothing. It was great. The only reason I didn't buy it is I had absolutely nowhere to put an armored personnel.
You know where you park an armored personnel carrier? Wherever the fuck you want.
You gonna tow it, motherfucker?
Try it.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool, but The problem is that it just where are you going to put that? I mean, when you're not using it, that it's not going to be in your way, as because it's really big and really heavy. And even if you had a garage that could accommodate it, it's just going to accommodate that. Nothing else, just that. And I don't want to leave it outside. It's in pristine condition. So
just park it on the side of the road. APC versus snowplow.
yeah, but you don't want to leave it outside because it's going to rust. It's in beautiful condition right now.
Somebody's going to try and hijack it.
Yeah, because there was actually a key added to it. There was a key start that had been added to it so that you couldn't just take it, because most military vehicles do not in fact need keys. They're just simply push buttons. You can hop in them and drive away. Same with jets. People don't even realize that most fighter jets, like, I don't know, F-15s, you actually don't need a key. You just need to get into it and turn it on.
Hey, just remember now, government property is public property. It's unowned. Homestead it.
Yeah, it's public property. It's
go homestead a Harrier.
Homestead a Harrier. Oh, actually, don't homestead a Harrier, because if you try to use the vertical landing thing, I know enough professional pilots who almost killed themselves trying to work that. Don't do it. You will die.
Some guy's gonna misinterpret what I said and go after a fucking Osprey.
Also gonna die, even if you know how to fly it, because those things are junk. They killed how many people in develop? I mean, come on. No, the Ospreys are garbage, people. They're fucking garbage.
All right, I don't know where to go. We have no segues. I don't know where to go. 1 through 4.
I don't know. Why don't we do? I kind of want to make sure that we cover the PornHub thing, because.
All right. You want to read it?
I think that one's it's contentious, and I understand some of it, and it's going to rile some people up, but it's if you believe in your principles here, I think this isn't Pornhub's fault.
No, you're gonna sue eBay for getting ripped off by some buyer, by some seller?
Yeah, exactly.
Or Amazon because it's not exactly what was pictured.
Or Facebook because of an unflattering picture that got published, or that's basically what this is. So Pornhub claims immunity after video shared of Alabama teen's alleged rape. Pornhub asked a Birmingham federal judge on Wednesday to dismiss a lawsuit brought by an Alabama teen who claimed she was raped and that the incident was posted to the adult website, claiming the company is immune to liability for what third parties post to their platform. MindGeek, Pornhub's parent company, said it was entitled to so-called Section 230 immunity, which it said gives internet companies, quote, broad immunity from liability for content posted to its websites by third parties, end quote, because it fucking does.
Yeah. Real quick. Section 230 is the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which reads that no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of information provided by another. Which means that, like, this is what YouTube uses, so it doesn't get sued. It's what Facebook uses, what Twitter uses, Instagram uses, all sorts of. Pornhub's no different than Facebook or YouTube or Instagram.
Yeah, and make no mistake. I mean, what happened to this girl is fucking wrong, and in my opinion, the person who did it deserves to be, summarily executed.
The person that did it, the person that uploaded the video, would chip her on both.
Yeah, fucking kill them. Like, I'm fine with that, but don't blame Pornhub because they just allow you to just post whatever. They can't. They're not monitoring every single thing that gets posted, and considering the millions and millions of gigabytes of stuff that gets uploaded, nor could they possibly monitor everything that gets uploaded to their website. The 16-year-old Alabama girl, along with an underage girl from California, filed the suit in February, claiming Pornhub violated a number of laws, including the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, which allows victims to sue entities in civil court who benefit from a, quote, venture that it should have known was engaged in a violation, including that an act involving a child 18 years of age or under constitutes a violation, according to the complaint, which again makes no sense because, again, you're talking about hundreds of gigs in any given couple of hours that get uploaded. How could they possibly have known that that's what was going on? The teen said she was drugged and raped in 2018 by Tuscaloosa man and that he uploaded video of the alleged rape to PornHub. In its filings Wednesday, PornHub said it cannot be held liable under Section 230. Quote, federal courts have consistently held under similar circumstances that such claims against websites for possessing child pornography are barred by Section 230, end quote. In addition to unspecified monetary damages, the girl's lawsuit also asks PornHub to develop measures to identify and remove child pornography from its adult sites, which is an absurd request. How could you possibly pull that off?
You're gonna make people show their ID before the video starts?
Yeah, I mean, the United States already has laws for the adult film industry where you have to certify, if you're going to create an adult film, that all actors and actresses are, in fact, of the age of majority or greater at the time of filming and are not intended to portray someone who is younger than such. That's that little thingy that comes up at the beginning of a lot of porn videos. Not that I've ever seen one, but, I've been told.
It's also one of the union requirement things, and
yeah, you have to have that up, because if you don't, then you're in violation. So that is something that already exists. But PornHub is not a traditional pornography producer. They don't make their own porn. They simply host a video website like YouTube just for adult content that people upload stuff to. That's all they do. They just host a video. They just host a website. They just created a website that other people can use. And if they choose to use it in nefarious ways, that isn't their responsibility, Ross Ulbricht.
Yes. Double life sentences plus 40 years.
It's not their fucking fault. They had nothing. What happened to her is terrible. I completely agree. The fact that the video was uploaded, which allowed her to be repeatedly victimized by other people, also terrible. Anyone who watched that video, knowing what it was, you were also fucking terrible. But it's not Pornhub's fault.
No.
It's fucking absurd. It's absurd that she's even thinking that, well, you should have known. How was I gonna know?
It's like the Newtown shooter, or the parents of the kids that were killed in Newtown, like suing the ammo company.
Yeah, how
right? Or the firearms manufacturer. This is like, oh, there was a drunk driving accident. Let's sue Ford. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, you don't sue a whiskey company when your raging alcoholic college kid dies of alcohol poisoning.
Pabst Blue Ribbon made me beat my wife.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is not a thing. Like, you understand that you are responsible for your actions. You chose to do that. That isn't the company's fault. They are not responsible for you choosing to use things in a manner that it was not meant to be used.
Yeah. And this is I'm not going to get into the whole self-responsibility thing of this, but you can't blame third parties for a two-party situation.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can't.
If you want to sue,
that's not the way liability. First off, that's not the way liability works. Second, that's not the way responsibility works.
Well, yeah, and the way that all of the wording in this lawsuit is, and I've read through the complaint and stuff, and the way that this is worded, what it sounds like is completely just them looking for money. That's all it is. They just want money. They know they'll never get it out of the guy that attacked them.
Mm-hmm.
So they go after a company that they know has it, which is a load of horse shit. And fuck that lawyer for doing it, because he should be better than that.
He's a lawyer. He can't be better than that.
But they can be. I know people who are lawyers who are really good, solid lawyers, and
fucking shyster.
But this lawyer clearly doesn't give a shit. He's just like, oh, I bet we could get some money out of these. No, you cannot. I mean, there's no possible way a video hosting site can monitor every single thing that gets uploaded to it. There's no way. They're not responsible.
There's porn all over Twitter.
Yeah, tons of it. Tons of it. There's porn all over Reddit. There's porn all over fucking a ton of the internet. Probably 3/4 of the internet is in fact porn.
Remember that song from several years ago? The internet is for porn.
Yeah.
The internet is for porn. I hope that's in your head for the rest of the day.
Well, and how many times, have people talked about how like the whole reason that cell phones got as large as they did and stuff is because of porn. Yeah, for the screen for porn.
I can't argue against that.
It's there was, I forget what, I don't remember if it was a TV show or a movie, but there was like this ongoing conversation where this guy just kept going, seriously, gamers and porn. That is what drives all video technology all the time, period. I mean, that was the entire reason why VHS beat Betamax, was because of porn.
Not wrong. Doesn't mean it's right, just means it's not wrong.
So like and the thing is this girl, like, okay, she's a victim, fine, I get it, I understand, but you should still, you should still be ashamed of yourself though, because in response to your victimhood, you're attempting to victimize people who had nothing to do with what happened to you.
Yes.
Nothing to do with what happened to you. And if by some miracle Pornhub doesn't win this, and they certainly should based on jurisprudence, but just if they don't, this opens up every other website. This effectively nullifies 230.
Yes.
And every other website now is going to have to monitor absolutely everything that gets uploaded.
Well, they're trying to undo 230. Right? They're pushing in Congress to undo 230 because Orange Man said mean things on social media. Right? And fake news and extremist harmful content and
the extremist content.
So they're trying to undo 230. So I mean this could be a backdoor into it, no pun intended.
Giggity.
We're bad people, you guys. Why are you still listening to us?
Yeah, if you're listening to this podcast, realistically, you're listening to something that plenty of websites don't want on their website.
No. But
it's there anyway because they can't possibly monitor it all.
As long as you're clean in the first 10 minutes, YouTube will put it up.
Yeah.
Just
so it's but I mean that's the thing though, is this is even her doing this is dangerous to the internet community as a whole. Her, the two chicks that are doing this is a serious problem, because yes, you were victimized. Yes, you deserve compensation, in my opinion, but you deserve it from the people who victimized you.
Yes.
Like if you're going to sue somebody, sue them and force them to, even because they're not going to spend the rest of their lives in prison for this. So sue them so that once they get out, half of their paychecks are constantly having to take care of you. I find that to be fair.
Sounds fair to me. Gonna be a dickhead, you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the way that justice would work in a free society, is it would be much more compensation based, because simply locking
it would
be
direct compensation based.
Yeah, because simply locking somebody in a box doesn't necessarily help the victim, but if they have to pay them, they have to pay for therapy, they have to pay for whatever, that does help them. Yeah, they have to make them whole again, or at least try to help make them whole.
So, all right, speaking of dickheads, HHS Secretary Becerra, quote, absolutely the government's business to know which Americans haven't been vaccinated.
It absolutely is not.
Quote, we try to give people as much freedom and choice as possible.
Okay.
That was the worst fake laugh.
I know.
All right. Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra said Thursday it was, quote, absolutely the government's business to know which Americans haven't been vaccinated yet against the coronavirus. Responding to GOP criticism of Biden administration's planned, quote, door-to-door campaign to encourage unvaccinated Americans to inoculate themselves, Becerra told CNN that the government has had to, quote, spend trillions of dollars to try and keep Americans alive during this pandemic. Quote, so it's absolutely the government's business. It is the taxpayers' business if we have to continue to spend money to try to keep people from contracting COVID and helping reopen the economy.
What do they mean they spent tons of money to keep Americans alive? Like, what?
They didn't spend trillions of dollars.
Yeah, you spent a bunch of money destroying people's livelihoods, but certainly not keeping them alive.
Of dollars begging the people not to burn everything down and to keep the economy from collapsing.
Yeah, the economy that was going to collapse because of them, not because of the fucking virus.
Fucking virus. 600,000 people have died. Oh my God, it's like 0.0017% of the population.
Yeah, holy crap. More people die every year on your highways than died from coronavirus.
Yeah. Oh, but the Delta variant. Well, fuck the Delta variant too.
Yeah, that's I had somebody who actually believes in the fucking all of the COVID shit be like, well, what are you going to do? Because I'm like, well, no, I'm not going to get fucking vaccinated. I already had coronavirus. I have more immunity than people who get fucking vaccinated. It's proven scientific fact. Fuck you. No, not happening.
Yep.
Well, what are you going to do about the Delta variant? Well, is the current vaccine any good against the Delta variant? Well, no. Okay, so why the fuck would I get the current fucking vaccine?
Becerra said people didn't have to answer the door, but he hoped they would, so officials could dispel rumors about the vaccine, which has proven to be highly effective. It's like 64% or whatever in driving down cases, hospitalization, and deaths. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 56% of the adult population has been fully vaccinated, and 67% have gotten at least one dose of the coronavirus vaccine.
I mean, you know, I'll answer my door.
And we're demonetized.
If you would like to talk to me about the COVID vaccine, I'll answer my door. I mean, I don't know that you want me to, but I will.
Oh, this is the this next paragraph. This is the divider, right? So like everything up to this point, you're like, yeah, okay, it's you know, rhetoric, blah blah blah. This is the divider. This is the with us or against us. States that tend to vote Republican have reported lower vaccination rates, and polls show Republican voters are far more likely than Democrats to say they will not or likely will not get the vaccine. The issue has become part of the larger debate over public health measures colliding with Americans' personal freedoms.
If any law collides with my personal freedom, guess which one should win?
Citing concerns over the quote, Delta variant of the virus, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said this week the door-to-door push is designed to inform people in less vaccinated pockets of the country about where to get the shot and address the concerns about the safety and efficiency of the vaccine, adding that it's not up to the federal government to mandate vaccines. But it's their business to know who doesn't have it.
Yeah, apparently it's their business to know. See, and that's the thing is like I had pointed out.
Which means there's a motherfucking list.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is I had pointed out too on Twitter. Like I was like, so what you're telling me is you have a list, and I had somebody respond, oh well, I don't know that they're gonna have a list. They're probably just gonna go, no. Based on this article, they're clearly going to build a fucking list.
Asked by anchor Brianna Keller if the administration was considering more aggressive measures to get more people vaccinated, Becerra hedged, saying he wanted people to have, quote, as much freedom and choice as possible. Cool. I'm gonna wait till your mouth is empty before I read this next part, because I don't want you spitting it all over. Quote, we want to give people the sense that they have the freedom to choose, but we hope they choose to live. We hope people make the right choices. We want them to have the right information, but we are America. We try to give people as much freedom and choice as possible. But clearly, when over 600,000 Americans have died, the best choice is to get vaccinated.
I also hope that people choose to live.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I also think that you should choose to live.
Becerra goes on to say, quote, some comments I made today are being taken wildly out of context. To be clear, government has no database tracking who is vaccinated. We encourage people to step up to protect themselves, others by getting vaccinated. It's the best way to save lives and end this pandemic.
Plandemic.
Scandemic.
Yeah, like, are you fucking seriously? Come on. No, you know what?
We have no database tracking who is vaccinated. Then why the fuck do they have the vaccination cards?
Yeah, then what's the point of that?
Digital vaccination cards.
Yeah.
Why do you have to sign papers to get the shot? So that you could go into a motherfucking database, which you know that the motherfucking government has access to. So there is a goddamn motherfucking list of people who are vaccinated, which means that there is absolutely a list of motherfuckers who are not vaccinated.
Yeah. If you have a state ID and a social security number, or even just social security number, and you aren't on that list of people who are vaccinated, they have a list of people who aren't vaccinated.
Yes, you are fucking registered, you are monitored, you are tracked. There's no escaping that.
We're fucking livestock on a tax farm.
There is a fucking list.
Yeah, all you are is a ear tagged piece of chattel.
Yes. And I'm not saying that you should not open the door. I'm not saying that you should confront the people going door to door. I'm just saying you should act in what is you believe is your best interest. And I'm going to leave it at that.
And what you believe is within your rights as a human fucking being.
So, on that note, so we don't get red flagged.
Again, they can stop at my door. I'll answer.
Well, you don't really live in a rural red state anymore.
Well, it's still rural. Wisconsin has always been purple. Well, it's strobes red and blue is really what it is, because we're a swing state, just like Iowa. We're one of those swing states, which is why Biden was just in town the other day. Hooray. Thankfully, I live and work far enough from where he was at the Omni Center that I didn't have to deal with that. But at least I assume he was at the Omni Center. I didn't even pay enough attention to know where he was.
Wisconsin, 6 million doses, 2.95 million people fully vaccinated. So that's 50.7%.
Yep, seems about right. Keep in mind our biggest population centers: Milwaukee, Madison, Green Bay, La Crosse, Kenosha, Appleton. They're all blue leaning.
Yes.
So, and very blue in the case of Madison, our capital, and Milwaukee, the biggest city. Milwaukee is just Chicago light. So, I mean, it's like what, like a 20-minute drive from Milwaukee to Chicago. It's if that, like they're right next to each other. So, yeah, it's that's probably contributes to it. There's also a lot of old people in Wisconsin who are idiots and easily manipulated because they're boomers, and of course, boomers are easily manipulated. So, especially by government.
Let's see, California, 43 million doses given, 20 million people vaccinated, 51.1%. So Idaho, 36%, Wyoming, 35, Utah, 38, Montana, 43. What the fuck, Montana?
Montana's been a pretty popular place for people to move from, like California and stuff.
Yeah. Arizona, 44%.
Yeah, Arizona's gone very blue.
Texas, 42%.
Yep.
Weird.
Texas also huge influx from California, huge influx from the Pacific Northwest.
Yep. So, Do what you think is right. I'll leave it at that. But we're going to talk about the MILF Mobile.
Ah, the MILF Mobile. See, this is the kind of journalism that people tune into us for. We know why you're here.
What? This is an article on The Intercept. Which means it's legit journalism. So, a nation conceived in liberty confronts its queasiness with the MILF Mobile. Brittany Gilden drives Maine's most beloved vehicle. It's a 2013 teal Chrysler Town and Country minivan. An enormous custom-made MILF Mobile logo is plastered on its rear windshield. Quote, everyone loves my van except for Karens, Gilden says, referring to a pejorative term for an entitled white woman. Karens hate it. Gilden's ride also supports kids in this bitch. Honk if one falls out. If you're gonna ride my ass, at least pull my hair. And condoms prevent minivans.
I fucking love this chick.
A tits out vanity plate is attached to the MILF Mobile's bumper.
How did she get away with that?
License plate is tits out.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Just I'm all about it. I'm all about it. The plate, quote, the plate references the fact that I exclusively breastfed all 4 of my children and that I frequently drive topless. Maine is, in fact, a topless state. Yes. The MILF Mobile's local fame hasn't come without opposition. Each viral post in Maine's Facebook on Maine Facebook featuring the mid-2000s whip is swarmed with replies demanding that Glidden, quote, grow up and rethink her van's controversial design. And unfortunately, state lawmakers have been listening to the internet haters.
Of course they are.
Yes.
Because they're Karens themselves, or whatever the male equivalent is. That one's still up for debate.
On January 19th, a new bill aimed at banning, quote, vulgar and obscene vanity plates was introduced by Senator William Diamond, Democrat out of Windham. He previously served as Maine's Secretary of State during the Vanity Plate program creation in 1989. The program's founding purpose was to create, quote, fun and creative tourist attractions that make money by the state. By those standards, the initiative has been a success. There are currently over 119,000 registered vanity plates in Maine, and the program generates $2 million annually.
You know, and see, that's why I asked how she got away with it. I didn't realize. So they didn't have a law that prevented you from getting offensive plates like most states that have vanity plates. Because like Wisconsin.
No, they did. In 2015, however, a new law was passed in Maine eliminating the Secretary of State's power to reject vanity plates containing, quote, obscene, contemptuous, profane, or prejudicial messages. Diamond wants to change that.
See, that's what I'm saying. So they wound up without that law. Like Wisconsin, if you want a vanity plate, and I know it's the same thing in North Carolina and Georgia, you have to actually write an explanation of what your request for a vanity plate is. And they have the right, if they don't like it, to just say no, according to state law.
They work for us, guys, I swear.
Yeah, so if you want a plate that says, I don't know, like FUKPIGS,
yeah,
they will probably say no.
Yes. Quote, I'm no prude or interested in letting Big Brother run our lives, but what we are now allowing has gone way beyond the original intent of the vanity plate program, Diamond said. Quote, this is not an attempt to implement strict Puritan guidelines. There are plenty of other opportunities for free speech.
There are plenty of other opportunities. What the fuck?
This is where you're gonna lose your mind. Diamond's proposal asserts that vanity plates are state property and can be recalled at any time. It also allows the Secretary of State to reject vulgar and obscene plate applications. State property.
No, so okay, let's unwrap that for a second. So one, the plate that you are required by the state to have on your vehicle, your property, in order to use your property on public property that you allegedly co-own. That plate is state property, which is supposed to be a state of the, government of the people, by the people, for the people. And the Secretary of State, an unelected bureaucrat, has the right to recall those plates that, again, you're required to have to use your property at any time. But don't worry, he's not about government overreach.
Yes. Maine's current Secretary of State, Sheena Bellows, strongly supports Diamond's proposal. She testified in favor of the vanity bill plate at a public hearing before the state legislators' joint standing committee on transportation on May 4th. Quote, one of my favorite games on road trips as a kid was the license plate game. But sadly, this is not a game I'd recommend a kid on Maine's roadways today. You can't just escape the proliferation of the F word or worse. And that's because we have witnessed a rise in offensive plates.
Oh, Jesus, fuck it. I need to protect my children.
So how many plates did they say is out there? 119,000 or something like that?
Yeah.
Right. 119,000 registered vanity plates. 119,000 registered vanity plates. Bellows said about 420 plates are currently vulgar enough to be banned. Examples include thinly veiled profanity like PHUK, U2. IEAT, A55.
Nice.
L8R, BTCH. And PPL, SUC.
I agree with that one.
None of those are offensive. None of them are offensive.
No, those are offensive. You're interpreting it. It's how you want. Yeah. And even if you interpret it offensively, fuck you.
Yeah. Too. Also included on the list were online acronyms like OMWTFYB, which means on my way to fuck your bitch, and OMGSTFU, or oh my God, shut the fuck up, were also included on the Bellows targeted list.
I love that. Imagine, oh my God, shut the fuck up. Can you imagine
like being in like the state Senate and having to read these out loud? And the other and actual lawmakers, other lawmakers like actually taking you seriously.
We need to ban these because I find them offensive. Like that's like this is one of those little ways the tyranny creeps into your everyday life when you're like, but I'm free. Obviously not, because again, you can't just say whatever you want on your property that you're forced to pay the government.
That you're required by the state to have. Yeah. Or they'll send police officers to take your vehicle and shoot you in the face if you resist.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's not freedom.
Literally, they're backing up a vanity license plate ban with the threat of death.
Yeah, because every time the state says you need to do this, it is left with the unsaid or else.
Yeah. Quote from Gideon says, quote, I'm not worried about vanity plates at all. My children hear and see much worse than that every day in TV, books, news, and video games. I have 4 children. They are 14, 11, 7, and 5. All of them love my vehicle. My older kids have experienced increased popularity because of it, which is pretty funny.
Because she's the cool mom.
Yes. On May 5th, Diamond's bill was advanced from the Transportation Committee with a 7-4 vote in favor of its passing. Maine's Senate and House subsequently approved Diamond's bill on June 8th, and Governor Janet Mills signed it into law a week later. Gilden, who voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016 and Libertarian Joe Jorgensen in 2020, wasn't happy with the outcome. She says the new vanity plate law is a First Amendment violation and is now planning a vehicular free speech protest. Quote, I'm working on a design for a large vinyl wrap for my van. It says tits out in huge letters with a diagonal red streak with swear words filling the whole thing. Like if the lyrics to the song Shit Piss Fuck by Blink-182 were made into a giant obnoxious decal. I might just make the state wish they hadn't even worried about offensive vanity plates.
Well, at least my plate's not.
God, I love this chick.
Yeah, this is fucking amazing.
Good.
Although I will say it doesn't surprise me that she voted for Bernie Sanders, because just that area of the country seems to like be schizophrenic when it comes to anything even remotely liberty minded, where they'll, on the one hand, they'll be like, well, I'm all about free speech and, you know, and like I have a right to my own property or anything else. But they're like, at the same time, oh, but you don't have a right to your property.
Yes. Vanity plate protests aren't the state's only problem. They'll also likely face First Amendment related appeals and lawsuits for which license plates have been used as cudgels for over 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's most states, like I said, most states have a law in the books that will not allow you to have an offensive vanity plate, which is a load of shit. Like, you're requiring this, and I don't get to say what I want with it.
Yeah, in 2014, for instance, David Montenegro, whose legal name is Hugh Mann, that's HU-MAN, successfully sued the New Hampshire Division of Motor Vehicles after officials rejected his application for COPSLIE vanity plate, but agreed to issue him GR8 GOVT instead. New Hampshire Supreme Court ultimately struck down the DMV's quote, offensive to the good taste of a reasonable person vanity plate standard as a result of human suit, citing its violation of the state's constitution's free speech clause and a 5-0 decision. Cool.
I mean, like I said, this is one of those tiny little ways where tyranny creeps into everyday life and people don't seem to notice. Where people can still convince themselves.
It's for their own good.
Yeah, it's for the good of the children. Won't you think of the children? That was that chick's argument.
Mm-hmm. About
why but I don't want to have to play that game. Come on, do you really, first of all, do you think that there is anyone in Gen Z or younger who is playing the license plate game on road trips? No, they're not. They're staring at screens the entire freaking way. Let's be honest, number one. And number two, those screens that they're staring at are going to show them far more offensive things than a clever license plate.
Yes.
It's like the that legendary plate where it was the special edition Virginia plate, those Virginia Children's First, and they had the slaps was the name of the text on the plate. So it read, because the Virginia was at the top of the plate and Children First was at the bottom of the plate, it read Virginia slaps Children First. Nice.
I mean, it's not at all vulgar really in any way. It's just they just don't like it. That's what it comes down to, is they just don't like it. You know, and politicians have to justify their own existence, and if they don't have anything that they can pass or whatever, they'll reach out and find something small like this and make it into a molehill, or make a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah, well, government's really good.
119,000 vanity plates, and they spent thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the politicians to vote for this, to pass the bill, to push it forward, and then like the eventual enforcement of it for 420 license plates out of 119,000.
Yep, because that is exactly what government does. They find problems that they can go, see, this is justifying my existence.
420 out of 119,000 is 0.003 0.00352%. So 0.3% of the 119,000 license plate is what they found offensive enough to pass a bill and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars enforcing it.
They said it's 116,000
119,000.
119,000. Oh shit! Let me try and do my math here. 19,000. Yeah, that is under 0.4%
Yeah.
I mean,
it's roughly 1/3 of 1%.
And you've spent far more money. Like, are you under the impression that there's going to be toddlers who are going to need lifelong therapy because they saw a license plate that says "I eat ass"?
It doesn't say I eat ass. It says I eat a 55.
Yeah, I eat a 55. I don't know. Maybe it's 55-inch pizza. You don't know. Kid's competitive eater. What do you want?
Yeah.
Like, what if I had a license plate that could be read as "Love Sausage," but it was because I fucking am a competitive eater of hot dogs at the Nathan's event at Coney Island every year. Like, what? Is that offensive now? Like, fuck you.
PENISG8.
Yeah.
Right. Pen is great. I don't know what you're upset about.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of pens.
Yes.
Maybe I work for Bic.
All right, let's get out of here, man. Throw out our
plugs. I think we're running out of license plate puns.
I hate people. I'm over it.
Yeah, that last one, PPLSUC. People suck. Yes, they do. Yes. And the fact that they found that offensive, come on. You're the reason that license plate exists right there. Because you found it offensive, you fucking suck.
Fucking Karens.
Oh, yeah. All right, plugs. Be sure to buy Derica's book and her crochet pattern. Links are in the description. Also, be sure to check out Poppin's patches. He makes fantastic patches, including the tactical beer goggles one that I have on tonight. Also, be sure to care for your beard like a Viking by going to thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkedAnarchist15. You get 15% off of your purchases there.
There's a bumper sticker on it. It says, "Caution, this vehicle makes sudden stops at your mom's house."
This chick is awesome. Oh, good times.
Only gay cops give me tickets.
Yeah, that one works, I'm sure.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, I had to look it up.
I'd party with that chick.
Oh yeah.
But also, if you want to buy streetwear, you want to get some cool watches, cool sunglasses, cool stuff. Yes, check out the MILF Mobile. But you want to look really cool and you want to save money while doing it, you can go to avantacrio.com or shopvalerio.com. Use code InkedAnarchist25 at either one of those, and you save yourself a full 25% off of your purchases. Also, don't forget to check out RTA. It's Road to Autonomy magazine. Awesome magazine that you should be reading if you're not already.
It's an e-zine too, so it comes in your email.
Yep. Don't even have to worry about it showing up in your mailbox and the fact that you still got to use the United States Post Office.
So, all right. On that note, you got anything else?
Nope. I think I'm good. That's all the plugs I got.
All right. Support your localized, unionized hooker.
Unionized hookers.
And tits out. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Yep.